learners. Welcome to another Monday Night Live. And in this episode, we are looking at specifically secrets for argumentative writing, for the argumentative essays for CSEC English A. Now, in the video title, you'll see that I'm saying this is for up to January 2027. That is because there is a new syllabus that will take effect from May, June 2027. Um, there are some differences, and honestly, some of those differences do not at all apply to anyone who's writing in and May, June 2026, as well as those who are writing Jan 2027. So if you're writing in May, June 2027 onwards, then there is some information from this video that is going to be helpful. Some of my general tips are still, I think, mostly applicable. However, when it comes to the rubric, there are some differences. And no worries, I do have videos coming out specifically about that exam. Spoiler, I'm not a huge fan of all those changes in that particular exam. Okay. However, without further ado, let us go into argumentative. I would say that for this exam, for this paper, for this particular question, it is actually a fairly easy question. Please do not give me bad comments. Actually, you know what? If you disagree, let me know, but don't be disrespectful. I have no problem with disagreement. That's part of communication, but don't be disrespectful, or I'll reply appropriately, right? Um, However, I would say in general, this is actually one of the easier questions to really get ahead with in the exam. However, there's, just like most of the other questions in the English A paper, not enough practice being done on this. Now, here's what I want you to think about. And this is why I say this tends to be an actually technically easy question. In everyday life, if you're one of the things you may find yourself doing is trying to convince someone that something is good or not good, right? It could be a TV show, it could be a novel, it could be gameplay, it could be any number of things, but you're trying to convince somebody, hey, I don't think that's good. And these are my reasons why. And that's essentially what you're doing with an argumentative. The major difference is that you're doing it in writing and you're going to use formal language. And I'm going to specify formal language because you can't write, hey, listen, when I tell you this, when I tell you that that coffee is not good because it gets people sick, you can't phrase it like that. You can't phrase it as colloquially as if you were speaking to a friend, colloquially or casually as if you were speaking to a friend. You've got to get textbook, okay? A great way to think of formal language is think of the kind of language you read in a textbook. You've got to explain it like that. So that is the actual true and new challenge with this type of writing. Now, if you've never seen the question as it comes right now, they don't ask you to agree or disagree with a stance. They normally just say, they just give you a statement. I'm not looking at you guys, not to be rude, but I'm looking for um, a question. So they just give you a statement, and from that statement, you do have to then come up with a response. Normally, the response has to be within 250 to 300 words. Baby words, guys, those are baby words. You can respectfully disagree with me in the comment section, right? So you have 250 to 300 baby words for your argumentative essay. And I'm going to give you, why is that so long? So this is from the current syllabus. And it's a rather long statement. I feel like I've never looked at this paper before. But you are a member of a school board that is considering reforms. One of the suggestions is that all schools should make provisions for students who have disabilities of any kind. Write a speech you would make to the board, giving your views on the statement. Is this the correct paper? Hold on now. Let me just make sure. Hold on. Yeah. This is an older paper. That's correct. So one of the inconsistencies in what I just read is that it says to make a speech. CXC doesn't really ask you for a speech. You don't have to worry about phrasing your words like a speech. However, you are writing a written correspondence, right? And in your written actually, let me say that with a grain of salt, because CXC does write stuff in their specimen paper, and make some subtle changes in the exam and that you don't see. But as far as I know, this should be a written piece of work. It should not be a speech or any sort of debate. Oral debate is written work, right? So what you have to do when you hear this statement or this proposition, you have to decide what is your view. So the first thing you need to do when you're looking at this particular type of question is, what is my view? Do I agree 100% or do I disagree 100%? So I normally advise my personal learners like that. It's like, what do you think? Do you agree 100% or do you disagree 100%? Do you totally agree with this statement or do you totally disagree? And sometimes for the exam, it is a lot easier to work with a total agreement or total disagreement because of exam conditions. However, please note, you do not have to totally agree or disagree. They simply ask you, what are your views? What are your views, right? Do you think, so like in this case, it's all schools should make provisions for students who have disabilities of any kind. Again, of any kind. So what if I want to say, yeah, we should have provisions, but only for physical disabilities? I'm not, and understand this is just a statement. Or if it is, I say, you know what, yeah, we can have reforms and we can have provisions for students who have disabilities, but only if that disability is emotional. Emotional disability. I'm so sorry, I'm not. I don't think that's a thing. Maybe it is. Is it a thing, emotional disability? But let's say if I want to say that maybe it should be something more neurological, right? Neurological, psychological. Those are the things we want to take into consideration, right? So then when you add that little change, this is not totally agreeing or totally disagreeing. It's what I call the gray area, right? So you can have your view whatever way you want. Okay. And I want to underscore that because I have had conversations with learners and they're like, oh, what's the correct answer? What's the correct answer? It's your answer. It's not the correct answer. Once you give me your perspective, your opinion, in a thesis statement, guys, a nice thesis statement, which should be in your introduction. All right. Once you give me that answer in your thesis statement, once you give me that point of view or that opinion in your thesis statement, that perspective, I am using that to then mark your work. And that's what I love about this. I'm not going to tell you wrong off the bat because I need to see what your opinion is. And then I'm going to look at the three arguments or the 3 points that you come up with to support your perspective or your point of view. That's how it works. There is no correct answer. So those of you who are looking for the correct answer to impress the teacher or impress the XC guys, throw away that notion. There is no correct answer. There is your answer, your perspective, your point of view, which can only make sense if you come up with points or arguments that support it. All right. If your points or arguments don't support it, then it's not going to work. Anai Gabriel said, shut up. Oh my goodness. Anai, then you'd have to leave the live. I am here to speak. Not sure if that's definitely not respectful. But you're welcome to leave. That's okay. We're here to talk about argumentative. So if it is you're not interested in that, of course, swipe and go to another video. Great. So once it is you have your perspective, and all you need to do now is figure out your points. And how do you figure out your points? I would always say once you've brainstormed your general perspective or point of view, you write that down and you want to figure out what your pros or cons. A lot of teachers will say, hey, think about your pros or cons. What supports your idea and what can't support your idea? Now, I would still say, even if you're confident about an idea, you're confident about a perspective, you should definitely sit down and come up with your pros and cons, because your pros and cons are your arguments that you're going to work with. If it is, let's say, for this example, let's say you're 100% agreeing with the fact that we should make provisions for students who have disabilities of any kind. So all disabilities, we're going to help students with all disabilities, right? Ensure that they're able to go to classes and stuff like that with minimal interruptions. And you really are passionate about that point of view, but you can't think of anything in the exam to support it. Guys, it happens. You're passionate about this point of view, but you can't think of any solid reasons or arguments to come up with a great essay to get full marks. So sometimes you realize, I've got more points why this does not make sense. That doesn't mean that you don't like people with disabilities, but whatever rationale you have to come up with, maybe it has to do with funding, maybe it has to do with not just funding. Maybe it could be um, you're thinking that depending on the disability, students will be better served in a specialized school, right? Um, in order to access better instructors who are capable of dealing with these needs, right? Whatever your rationale, you might have more points on that side. Simply go ahead and write that essay, guys. Again, there is no right or wrong answer. It's, can you convince me? Can you come up with an opinion that you can support on your own? And that's really what you're doing here. Okay. So those are two key things that I recommend. This is a question that, in in the exam paper, there's a block, there's a page, and it's got it's nicely bordered. And that's the planning section. This is definitely a question that I really need you to plan and think and brainstorm. Once you've done sufficient brainstorming for this particular question, super easy to write. Super, super easy. All right. Super, super easy. I always say this is one of the easiest papers. Sorry, this is one of the easiest questions to prepare for the actual exam. And honestly, for me, it's one of the easiest to mark because you are giving me your own ammunition. You are showing me exactly what you think, and you are showing me, oh, this is my rationale for thinking of this. So I just have to use your roadmap, your signpost, and bam, I know how to mark you. So students who are able to take advantage of this, wow, they do awesome. Because I'm just reading what you told me, and you consistently stick to your point of view, uh, you should be getting top tier marks, right? And actually, that's a key aspect of this particular paper. You do need to consistently support your point of view. That is something that I must mention because I have encountered students who are so keen to perform well in this question that sometimes they end up supporting the other side or an alternative point of view. You do not want to do that because then you're telling me, oh, so your opinion is not exactly fully thought out, planned, accurate, right? Um, so that's exactly what you want to do. Some few other tips that I really need to let you know. This should ideally be a 5-paragraph essay. If you're writing 3 paragraphs, don't expect really, really good marks, okay? If you're writing just 3 paragraphs. Ideally, in terms of the paragraphing, you should have an introduction, 3 body paragraphs, and a conclusion, all right? The introduction should contain your thesis statement. The thesis statement should contain your perspective. It should be very specific, very clear, very arguable, and it should be concise. So it should not be like 70 words. Please do not do that. Very short. Again, this is a baby essay. It's a cute little baby, very cute, very small, cute, very chibi. So you can't expect to write a lot for your introduction. In fact, I would say for this, I actually told my student this over the weekend. I was saying like 30 to 50 words for your introduction. 50 is really pushing it. In fact, he did his first argumentative and we were at 30 words for his introduction. And it was pretty good. Pretty good. So don't think you have to write a lot for your introduction. You already don't have a lot to write. When I say you don't have a lot, you don't have a lot of words to then convince me in your 3 body paragraphs. So I really recommend that you don't spend too much time being flowery or trying to be impressive in your introduction or even your conclusion. Worse yet, your conclusion. You just want to get to the point, to the meat of the matter, and ensure you have enough in the introduction and ensure that you have sufficient words for your 3 body paragraphs. Oh, what's a body paragraph? That's where you're going to put each of your arguments. So when you're writing your essay and you come up with your perspective during your brainstorming, you do have to come up with 3 arguments or reasons why your perspective is a sound perspective in your opinion, right? Um, so each argument or reason gets its own paragraph. And you want to start with a topic sentence. A topic sentence is essentially going to be um, a English, por favor. No puedo pensar. Right. So each topic sentence is literally going to be the start of each body paragraph, and it's going to identify what you're going to discuss. So, for example, we're looking at that same topic. We should have support for students of disabilities of any kind. And let's say you're 100% for that. And let's say one of the reasons is that um, we need to support basic human rights, right? Taking care of any human being, regardless of disability, is a crucial component. Actually, that's what I just said could be my topic sentence, and I would then explain. And you're going to do that for each for in the for the second body paragraph and the third body paragraph as well. You want to ensure that you explain specifically what needs to be done. Bueno. And then when we get to our conclusion is the best part. I love our conclusion because you don't have to write anything new for it. A conclusion is completely, it's almost like a summary of what you already said. And I'll give you a very good trick, a very, very good trick that one of hi Superman TY. Hi Superman. Hi Superman. Yes, you definitely need to be respectful. Okay, so here's the trick that I have for writing a conclusion. And a teacher of mine taught me, and I think it is a pretty solid trick. When you come up with your thesis statement, which is your perspective, and you have your topic sentences, which is essentially the start of each body paragraph with the key reason or main argument you're going to focus on. Take those 4 sentences, don't rewrite them. That's not what I said. But you're going to look at those 4 sentences and kind of reword them, rephrase them, um, meld them together, and that's your conclusion. A conclusion is just a reiteration of what you've already said. It's emphasizing what already you already said. So you don't have to then add, and you know what else? Do not do that for a conclusion. Then you do not have a conclusion. And if you do not have a conclusion, then you don't have proper organization. If you don't have proper organization, you're going to get less marks. So, guys, keep it really simple. Keep focusing on these key points. I think once you understand the structure of an argumentative essay, that helps you a lot in terms of getting marks. All you need to do after that is work on explaining yourself, right? Because when you look at each argument paragraph, and I'm reading specifically directly from the syllabus, guys. So for each argument paragraph, you need to ensure that mm, right. You have to expand, explain, illustrate by example, for example, by means of anecdotes, the main argument. So they want you to then explain. So, how is it that having a basic human right means that I need to take care of disabilities? So, some of you might think, oh gosh, but this makes sense. I know the answer. You know the answer. We all know the answer. Yes, we all know the answer. But you've got to demonstrate that you can explain the answer. I know. And in writing, I know. So you have to really practice this because speaking is different from writing. And I can tell you that. So for me, I'm going to be very honest and transparent. I hate doing these lives. I don't like talking, actually. I do not like it. I prefer to write. So for me, reading and writing are language skills that I tend to gravitate towards. Even when I'm learning a foreign language, reading and writing, even for languages like Mandarin, which I'm trying again, even for Mandarin and for Korean. Well, Korean has an alphabet. Korean uses an alphabet. Mandarin doesn't. It's easier for me to look at the writing system than to speak, right? However, many people, especially us in the Caribbean, we are the other way around. We love to talk. Talk, listen, talk, listen, talk, listen. We're all about oral traditions. So when it comes to writing, we've got to work a lot harder to make sure we practice it. So that's why I really recommend that you do get this particular piece of writing down and practice it. And there are a lot of fun ways to do this. Now, you could again go ahead with the CXC topics, which tend to be very serious. They're whatever CXC thinks students and young people are thinking about in today's society. Um, because again, CXC is not in this millennium at all. Um, but what I would recommend is start thinking about something that maybe you are concerned about. Some fun topics, guys. Fun topics that I've given some students are like Spotify versus YouTube Music, KFC versus well, I'm in Trinidad, so Trinidad. So KFC versus Royal Castle. Um, Batman versus Superman. Think of something fun like that and use that as practice and see if you can I write an essay about why Batman is better than Superman. Batman is better than Superman for me, guys. That's what I would write about. So you want to practice doing these things and getting better at it. And another reason for you to practice your writing and, regardless of topic, is there's a component of this which is correcting your actual language. So you have to be mindful of ensuring that you're great at writing sentences. And when I say great at writing sentences, I don't just mean coming up with sentences, I also mean putting the full stop at the end. You know that the little dot you gotta put at the end of the sentence. It can't be imaginary or invisible. It's got to be there, right? So you've got to be very good with your punctuation as well. Punctuation does not need to be that difficult or frustrating, although English punctuation tends to be a little more nitpicky than others. You need to ensure your sentences are clear and meaningful. You need to ensure that the transitions between sentences and between different paragraphs are effective and appropriate. That's another reason why you need to work on your topic sentences to ensure an effective transition. Um, Grammar must be on point, aka subject and verbs must agree, pronouns must agree with the antecedents, and you must be consistency in the use of tense. For argumentative, I often recommend that you use present tense. Present tense is a tense that suggests that things are not just factual but true, believable. So if you use present tense for your argumentative essays, they immediately start to sound much more impressive. And I love to use the word impressive because that's what you want to do. You want to impress yourself. You want to impress yourself. You want to impress your parents, your family, the ones that matter. You want to impress the person marking your paper because they're the ones who are going to give you the marks, right? Um, Spelling should be on top. So spelling should be good. So if you know you have a problem with spelling, please ensure that you practice that. A good trick. Can I give you guys this trick? I'll give you this trick, but I want you to be very careful with it. A good trick to help with your spelling is to type up the document on like Google Docs or Word and let it do a spell check. The only thing I would have to recommend is just probably, although I'm not sure nitpicky CXCs about this, make sure that it's set for a UK English. I know American English has different spelling, okay? And a lot of you guys watch so much American media that you spell US more than UK. Although I'd say in the Caribbean, we kind of do both, but just double check your spelling, right? And I think that's it. Yeah. Those are the key things. I do. Let me check. I should actually have a video that focuses on argumentative. I'm literally just double checking. SB4 comes Hi, how you doing? I hope you're good. I did do a video. I don't want to say I did it and then I didn't do it. Right. So I have done previous videos last year, probably year before, about the rubric for paper 2. It is applicable for this exam, as well as about the writing a paper, writing the essay for this. So those are quite helpful, and they will guide you in the right direction, right? Now, if you think you need more specific assistance, guys, feedback is key. Feedback is what you need for writing, because everybody's writing style is different. As much as I gave you guys parameters and rules and guides for your writing, um, you would have your own unique way of expressing yourself. That is pretty normal. All right. So you still want someone to give you feedback. You've either got to get your teacher. A teacher would be ideal. If you have a family member who writes a lot like this, you could have them check it out, or get a solid lessons teacher. Really, really important. My classes, if you're looking for classes, are all about feedback all the time. All right. And if you stay subscribed, you're going to see some of my information updates about those classes. I still have room for students, for learners in those classes. All right. So if you have any other comments, considerations, please go ahead and leave them on this video. I'm trying to be in much better content creator and actually check my comments. Um, so if there's something that you really had no idea about, or you want more information on, please leave a comment so I can know what type of questions are. So because one of the challenges I have as a teacher is I already know this. Like I already know. So that's the thing. Your teachers already know. And I think maybe there are some teachers who don't appreciate that they already know, but that the student doesn't already know. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you need to let me know what you don't know. Now, if you don't want the entire social media verse to know what you're asking, you guys can always message me privately. Easiest is either on IG or Facebook. You'll find me as CS Bean Success there. And yeah, those are the easiest places to message me, so that when you send me your DM, I can just take a look at it and either reply to you directly or reply in video form. Okay, so I think that is it for today. The next video, I can't remember what the next video is. Give me a second, let me check. Because I have all my stuff written out. So yes, it's gonna be a Monday Night Live next week for sure. I didn't have one last week because I got sick, which is really disgusting. But for next week, yes, I have all my stuff written down. I know, so boring. Um, so next week's video is going to be for those who are studying Spanish, and we're going to talk about the present tenses. All right. So if you're doing Spanish, we're going to talk about present tenses, which are crucial for the exam. I think it's one of the more common tenses that you will definitely have to deal with. All right. So without further ado, thank you so much for joining me in this session. And I'll leave you with the words that I normally leave at the end of these lives and my videos. I am succeeding. I know myself. I am successful. I am succeeding. I am successful. I know myself. I love myself. You guys take care. As usual, this is sent to you in success. Take care. Bye bye.